Have you ever come across the enigmatic Hippo defense on the board and felt trapped? Have you thought you had the advantage only to discover that breaking your opponent's defenses was harder than you imagined? Don't worry. In this video, you will learn the correct tactics and strategies to beat this chess animal. The Hippo defense may seem passive, but it hides a powerful counterattack. Let's learn how to face it and win. The Hippo defense is actually a variation of the modern defense. Black adopts a strategic arrangement of pieces and pawns that makes it difficult for white to find breakthrough points and launch effective attacks. The strategic placement that black uses consists of developing his two bishops along the fianchetto, from where they point towards the central squares. Then advances his central pawns only one square. Develop his knights to the e7 and d7 squares, placing them behind the central pawns. The moves h6 and a6 serve to control the g5 and b5 squares respectively and prevent the enemy pieces from getting closer. At the same time they allow black to control the h6 and a6 invasion squares. And they will also make possible the eventual counterattack with g5 or b5. Black does not rush to castle and waits to see which side will be more favorable. Black remains with his pieces in a small space within the first three ranks at the beginning of the game. The Hippo is a very flexible position that allows black to wait to see what white does and react accordingly. For example, if white advances with his pawns, black can advance with the attacked pawn and close the position to prevent the attack. For example, after a5, black can respond with b5. And in case of h5 black responds with g5. If white attacks in the center and advances with d5, black can respond with e5, closing the center and preventing the attack. After that he can think about counterattacking and preparing to break with f5 and attack on the king side in the style of the king's Indian defense. If white advances in the center with e5, black normally does not respond with d5, since his bishop on b7 would be trapped. But he can exchange first on f3 and then close the center with d5. Sometimes black can capture on e5, but he has to be careful because white could sacrifice a pawn and open the game. However, after the advance with e5 black can counterattack and activate his knight towards the f5 square, from where it threatens to capture the bishop on e3. The exchange of pawns on d6 is not dangerous and black generally obtains good play. Apparent passivity. Black often plays passively at first, but this is just a facade as he may also pursue active plans. For example, he can advance with g5 and then knight g6 to activate the knight and attack on the king side. Or he can also advance with b5 and knight b6, to attack on the queen side. However, for example, in this specific position, it would be a mistake to advance with g5, since black does not gain time by attacking the bishop on f4. White can respond with h4 and has an advantage. And also, in this particular position, attacking with b5 is meaningless since black simply loses a pawn. Another possibility is to attack against the center using the f5 or c5 breaks. However, in this particular position, it is not possible to make the move c5, since the opening of the d-file favors white. Black cannot castle. White exerts a lot of pressure and has an advantage. In this particular position, it is also not good to attack with f5, since the e6 pawn is left unprotected and white can capture it and win. He can also attack in the center with d5 or e5, although this is less common. Another idea for black is to mobilize his knights to attack the central pawns. But, for example, in this specific position it is not good to attack with knight c6, since the d4 pawn is firmly defended by 4 white pieces. White can advance with d5, attacking the black knight and is left with an advantage. In this particular position it is much better to attack with knight f6, since the e4 pawn is only defended by 1 white piece, while black attacks it with 2 pieces. Now, the best move for white is to defend the pawn with bishop d3, to reinforce the center. However, if white advances with d5, to defend his pawn, black can close the center with e5 and can then prepare to break with f5 and attack on the king side. And if white advances with e5, black can take his knight to the e4 or d5 square and have a very good game. The d6 pawn is perfectly defended. Black activates his pieces and has a very good game. For example, after some changes, black keeps the bishop pair and has a very good position. Hippo's pawn structure closes the center, making it difficult for white to break through. How to take advantage of this? Here are the keys to beating the Hippo defense. Avoid the center and seek to flank black's positions. Target weak squares on the flanks. A very effective way to break the Hippo's defenses is to attack with h5, followed by f4, which forces the creation of weaknesses in the opposing camp. Another idea is to attack on the other flank with the same scheme. That is, advance with a5 and then attack with c4. We are going to study a very instructive game where white applied these strategies successfully.